So think about this scenario. We have a moisture sensor in the ground, and when it trips, it's controlling a irrigation pump that's watering a winery. Now on the bottom half, let's think about let's say a person who's making beer. And this beer brewer is pretty smart with computers and installs a shadow sensor onto the control system of the winery. And this shadow sensor is basically faking out the reality of whether the ground is moist or not and causing the irrigation to run for extended periods of time, resulting in fines from the lovely state of California to the winery, thus adding additional cost and making them less competitive or even driving them out of business. Sound crazy? Huh. If you only knew. Admittedly, while wineries are probably not the best target or the most popular target, did you know that since 2010, 158 institutions, this is just on the medical side, have been hacked and held ransom? Just this year, Hollywood Presbyterian Hospital had to shift patients away from their care because their entire system was being held ransom for a mere $17,000 to free up their medical records. Is it going to happen? Nah. It's not if, it's when now. When will it happen to you? And I'm not a big believer in lots of security. Sometimes I think those security guys can go over the top, so I've always thought about things a bit more pragmatically. But if you think about this, it really makes me mad. And I'm thinking about this idea of mitigating aberrant data. That's what I mean by mad. I mean, if we could just understand the historical reference of that sensor, or if the readings that were coming in from that shadow sensor were within the band of prudent behavior. I mean, have you received an email that you knew was from a nefarious place because the English was wrong or the spelling was out of whack? Well, these readings also are that. And so could we see if this sensor was way off the mark? God, there's got to be something wrong. And is it really relating to other correlated systems? So many people are trying to protect the environment as a whole like we would an IT system for commercial building. Like you see at the top of this drawing, let's protect that gateway. We'll fortify it. But we've fortified the outside of an insane asylum, and we still have lots of people running back and forth and doing whatever they want. People digging under the foundation to sneak in and out. I mean, come on. Let's get to the point of actual control. So the idea is that if you look at the top, we're really talking about lots of edge devices. Now, some people consider an edge device only sitting at the edge of a building, but an edge device could be even contained within a building, these natural clusters of sensors, and an edge device that has some logic that can make immediate decisions. A gateway that allows us to route that information, normalize it, aggregate it, even make some logical assumptions about activities that may need to happen at the building that don't need the intelligence of the cloud. For instance, I have a light sensor that just tripped. I don't need to send that data all the way to the cloud to say the light sensor tripped and then return back to actuate the lights. I don't need to do that. I don't need the latency. So I might do that at an intelligent point in this process. That might be at the gateway. And then, of course, the cloud. And historically, we've been concerned about a lot of areas, and as we should be. But this conversation is going to focus specifically on the sensors and the form of actuation. So I ask you to look down in the majority of the document here in this gray box I refer to as the MAD fabric. MAD, again, being mitigating aberrant data. Starting in the middle of the picture here with the sensor, the actuation, and the mediation, shouldn't a system be smart enough to understand that, hey, this sensor or these components or subcomponents belong to this asset, and these actuators or whatever action needs to be taken belong to this asset, and can I mediate that and their influence on one another? Is that possible? And if I do, I can insert a level of logic that at least helps me validate whether the information is accurate or not. And in the lower right, could I actually gain some consensus or accountability? Could I look at tools like blockchain, which of course is popular? It's become very popular with the application, right? One of the cryptocurrency applications riding on top of the blockchain infrastructure known as Bitcoin. But this blockchain, the ability to create these shared records through unbelievable mathematical calculations that are really allowing only a block at a time to be encrypted, thus making it almost impossible to penetrate. Imagine if our sensors could access historical and associated systems, understand the mediation, and really be able to validate that that input reading belongs. And if it's got a unique profile and it's passing through this chain of blocks, is it possible that that a shadow sensor could be inserted? Probably not. And then at the end, when we start talking about where forms of intelligence start to take place, and we start to learn from things we're doing with tools like machine learning and others, and we're taking these mediated inputs and we're trying to orchestrate these holistic sight decisions. And these holistic sight decisions may happen at the edge, at the gateway, but we're constantly validating that what we're seeing is the actual truth. And if it's not, if it's an anomaly, we're smart enough to know, hey, let's put that to the side for right now, and then we'll pull it back in later as a reference, but we're not going to use it as the absolute truth right now. And if we can do this, if we can stitch this all together in this beautifully mad fabric, could we actually end up with an environment that can't be penetrated? Instead of protecting the gateway or the building or the site, can't we instead protect the sensors by running them through the same mediation, negotiation, and consensus process? This is the future of IoT. And it really brings together what I believe the definition will evolve into of IoT. Instead of the Internet of Things, it'll be informational technology and operational technology, I and the O, teaming together to create a solution set. This is our future. Embrace it now. That's all.